Hey Chris, welcome friends. We have a package from Six Pack Aero. So Lyle sent us the panel. I guess this is now an unboxing video.
Oh yeah, we do it all.
Okay, so stickers for your toolbox.
Oh great! I kind of thought it was black, but I didn't really even.
I was unsure of what color to do, and I mean every plane is black.
The one I had in there last week was gray.
Was it?
Yeah, powder coated. It's almost the same. A little bit of a texture to it. We get the first scratch out of the way, right?
Yeah, right off the top. There we go.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Even smells new.
Look at that. Okay, so this is the co-pilot side. Looks wonderful.
Does it? And so this is that's the other side.
Yeah.
Oh, it's got that new. Oh, even got his thing on the front.
Yeah.
I like his logo though. At least he put a nice logo on.
So this is powder coated two colors, and then laser etched through the top.
Yeah.
Powder coat.
So I think he powder coated it white, then powder coated
Then
it gray,
powder coated it gray, and then
etched it in.
laser etched that. Yeah.
It's nice. You don't even feel the knife. You can kind of see a little bit of it in. I don't know. They're very nice.
Cool. Okay, so Chris has been in behind the panel here and got all of the wiring harnesses made up. You said you spent 4 or 5 hours maybe to pin these together?
Yeah, the Dynon part of it. The radio is another 15,
Yeah.
14.
But the Dynon stuff was pretty easy to...
Yeah, no, very much. I think we've got some wires. I don't know if the camera can see it. Coming out of this harness. So we've got, there was 1, 2, 3, 4 sets, maybe, and power and ground that had to get connected.
Yep.
Use some solder sleeves. Biggest trick was getting things together with the solder sleeve to get in there to melt it. But other than that, the connections are solid. By setting it up on the panel, I made it so the harness is fairly clean.
Fairly clean, yeah.
Yeah, I was very pleased with how smoothly the install of the Dynon, or the wiring of the Dynon went. Right?
Okay.
Radios are radios. Like I had to, you gotta get all the pins, you gotta do the jacks and everything like
Yeah.
that. That's a little more in depth. But the rest of it, very, very simple.
So pretty much at this point, we're plug and play.
Yep.
Plug and play.
Plug and play.
Plug and play. So my task right now is, this is the final panel that we just got from Lyle. And all of this stuff is wired in temporarily, all the breakers and that. So I've got to pull all of this off, put it into the new panel, and get it ready to go in.
Yeah, and then we snap in the wiring, and it's plug it and play it.
Cool. Okay. So I've got some wiring to do. And I've got the battery disconnected for this bit, just so I don't short anything out. So just to give a better look at what's going on behind the panel now, this is all of our electrical. So these are all of the breakers, and they're wired together with a solid copper bus in behind. So that does away with quite a few of the wires that need to be going on. Everything's marked, what it is, where it goes, what it's for. These wiring harnesses are all for the Dynon system. And so those are the ones that Chris worked on to get it all worked together. And there are extra wires here so that in the future, if we decide, or when we decide to go to an IFR panel, these wires can easily be wired into the IFR component. So in back here, all of the AOA and pitot static comes in from one wing, and this will go to the backup unit. But over here on this side, let's see if I can get in there. Get my hand in here. So this is the SkyView panel where it's kind of a bus. So everything wires into this and then gets wired out, carries all the information around. And then down here we've built a shelf that has the ADAHRS unit and the engine management unit. So this massive wires up back here comes from the firewall forward, all of the probes and sensors and temperature sensors, comes into the engine management system and then comes out with the SkyView into the, let me make sure I get the name correct, the SkyView Network Hub. So into the SkyView Network Hub, and then all that information can go out to the other units. The ADAHRS is here, and so it has pitot, static, and angle of attack coming into it. And coming out, again, all the information comes out on the SkyView network cable into the hub. And so, as we get the panel finished, then we can come back in and just make sure that all of these cables and everything are out of the way of the yoke or the controls, because that needs to slide freely. Looks like a lot. And I know that in one of the first videos I said I was completely freaked out by it, but now it makes sense, or kind of makes sense. I wouldn't want to be left on my own with it, though. The avionics trays get flush riveted to the back of the panel. Trays aren't completely necessary, but I think that makes mounting some of the things a little bit easier.
Yeah, for sure. Especially that battery.
Yeah.
And everything's right there. I think it's the way to go. If not, you have to make all those racks in the back anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah. So it saved a bit of time on building stuff custom.
And cleaner.
Yeah, and cleaner. It's a cleaner install. Definitely a cleaner install. Okay. I'm just going to free up some of these cables a little bit. Give me a little more space. I'm not going to tighten it in, I'm just going to hold it in place so it's not flopping around too much while I'm working. Like that. All of the breakers are in place now. I haven't tightened them in completely. They're still in just loose because you never know. I might get it wrong and I might need to take it apart again, so no sense tightening it down. Now I need to fish all of the wires for the switches through the correct hole and reconnect them. They're all labeled, so it's just a matter of working in a tight spot and finding the right ones. My game plan at this point is just to test fit all of the instruments into the panel. I'm going to connect them all together and turn it on. The idea is that I want to check all of the connections, make sure it's working correctly, and then we'll go back and we'll route all of the cables, tie them together, make it look nice and neat behind the panel. At this point, I just want to make sure that the computer turns on and that all of the connections for the wiring are done correctly. Because it's going to be much easier if everything's just sort of temporary in place to take it all apart again and fix or correct any problems that there may be. There's no problems. Pretty sure there's no problems. Now, I've got a few different lengths of the SkyView cable. And the first thing I've got here is the transponder. So the antenna for the transponder is already hooked up. And this is the transponder cable. Get it turned the right way. There we go. Now, that slides back into its tray. Getting hung up a little bit on some of the stuff back here. Not worried about that right now. Let's just get it wired in and see what happens. This is the remote panel for the heading, the barometer, the altimeter. So that just pops out and it gets a SkyView cable on the back. And this has to connect up to here. Now, just a dry fit. This will hook into the back of screen number 1. That's the remote radio. And so here is screen number 1. And you can see on the back a number of hookups. So the biggest hookup is this one. And then there's 2 SkyView ports. So I'm going to plug one in here now. And this one will go to daisy chain over to probably the radio remote. And the second SkyView cable is from the barometer remote. Now, I come in with this panel. This panel on the pilot side is shock mounted, and I don't know that we're going to keep it as a shock mounted panel. So I just have to pull this away because this one slips underneath. With the old steam gauges, it was necessary to have it shock mounted. With these solid state gauges, not needed at all. Okay, so here we go. Got a couple of clecos, and we'll cleco this in place. Here we go. In place temporarily. This one is the radio box, so the antenna from the radio. Again, I'm not really all that concerned about making it look pretty from behind. This is the intercom panel, and just because of the way it goes in, I have to hook it up from behind and underneath. It is a bit of a pain in the arse. This is the radio remote panel. So it gets a SkyView cable out. it gets a Skyview cable in. This Skyview cable is coming from this display. It goes in. So this is taking information and then relaying it along. So, or actually it's coming this way. It's going to daisy chain to all the instruments through these Skyview cables. So that goes in. And then there is a bundle of wires here for the radio remote. And that gets connected as well. Okay, so that Skyview cable can go back in. Now the radio box. Connected. This wire is for the backup battery power, and so the backup battery is on the tray. I mean, even though this is plug and play, I don't know if I'm cut out to be an avionics technician. From this point forward, it is pretty simple. Chris has done all the heavy lifting. Let me get the other panel. Now, back of the panel. So, Skyview comm cable is going to come into here. It's going to go out of there, and then this bundle goes into this one. So, let's do the big one first. Get it out of the way. Okay, last Skyview cable. This is the point where I say to you, no matter how well you think you've planned the length of Skyview cables, you're probably going to reach this point and wish that you had one that was longer or one that was shorter. I wish I had one more that is longer, and I will, before we finalize the installation, I think I'll order one and get it in-house, just because you might as well do it right. Well, in fact, you have to do it right. There's no other way to do it.
Back here so I can... Someone needs to... Extinguishers over there in the box.
Okay. Battery on. Oh.
Something light up.
Something lit up. Skyview HDX.
The other one's secondary, so if you turn on the avionics, this one should come up, and we should get the radio. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Radio's up.
Frequency.
And there's the second panel.
Nice.
It's booting. Database is loading. No fire. I don't smell anything burning. Everything looks fantastic. Okay, so now comes the work of actually routing all of the cable behind the panel correctly, tying it into bundles, making it look really pretty, and then setting the system up, setting the computer up, uploading new files, new maps, new firmware. There's been a firmware update, so I've got to update that, and then I guess we away to the races. Oh, it's sending us a message. Backup battery low charge. Okay, so that's great. It's letting me know that it's connected to the backup battery, and the backup battery is low in charge because it's never been charged before. It's fresh out of the box. So at this point, it is charging it up. That is a thing of beauty. I should find a headset and plug in and listen to the radio and make sure the radio is coming through as well. Cool. So what do we do?
Well, it's on. Now we program it. Please review the getting started section of the installation manual. You gotta do it for that one, that one. Backup battery, did you plug them in or no?
Yep. So it's telling me that it's low charge.
Yeah, so it's gonna want to charge up
it's
at
charging,
some point.
yep.
Yeah, okay. And like, you know, so I don't want to push too many buttons, but.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so I think you gotta, now it's time for you to sit down. And okay, so now this thing, we don't have a speaker. Do you have a headset?
I didn't bring my headset today.
Okay, 122, 123, 175, I think it is. We'll give us a nod. And flip flop. Push, yeah, push. Receiving. Okay, so it's making a sound. I got a headset. Try this one. It hasn't been worn for 2 weeks, so it's been properly quarantined. It's COVID. Yeah, you can turn your volume down here just a little bit. Or I don't know how yours is, but mine. Okay, so that's good. And then we'll flip-flop here, flip-flop, and push to talk. So it should know to transmit up there.
Yep.
Yeah, transmitting, and then just try yours.
Transmitting?
Nice.
Cool.
The radio works.
A slight change in plan from the order that I thought I was going to do things in. My plan had been to now turn this all off, take it out, tie down all of the cables, clean it all up behind the panel, and then put it all back in, and then do the setup. And I've realized that I should probably do part of the setup now in order to run through a lot of the test menus just to make sure that everything is connected correctly before we go through all that trouble. So I'm going to update the software. There's a brand new firmware that came out for the HDX system, and the EMS, or the engine management system, that shipped with this was set up for a 4-cylinder engine. I have a 6-cylinder engine, so there's a little bit of software, and I've downloaded the software onto these little USB drives. And there's a couple of ways to update it. We originally were planning on mounting USB ports here on the panel so that I could update from in front of the panel. And then I thought, no, I don't want to do that because the updates aren't that often. Once a month, I will have to update the mapping software, but that's not a big deal because behind the panel, they have the USB port. And so I'm just gonna, this comes already attached. So I'm just gonna have these behind the panel. I can grab them easy enough, not a big deal. So I'm gonna put the panel into setup mode. And it says here, system software insert USB drive, which should be as simple as taking the USB drive that actually comes in the package, already formatted and ready to go. So plug that in, and it will recognize the USB drive. Upgrade software. So I'm going to do the system software upgrade first. So I just, these knobs, you can both turn them, but they also click as a button. I really like this tactile. These are touch screens. Touch screens are fantastic. We're all trained to use touch screens for almost everything now. But this sort of tray here that's on an angle with tactile, actual physical buttons I think is really important for this system, because when you're bouncing around on a bumpy day, when the air is turbulent, having a button to press, I think is much easier than trying to press on a touch screen. That might just be me. Who knows? So, upgrade software. Am I sure? I am sure. Update. So that's updating. So I'm going to go through all of these updates, and I'm going to start entering data from the operating handbook for this aircraft. It's asking me for things like stall speed, takeoff speed, landing speed, that sort of thing, and those numbers will be reflected in the display as a visual cue. I'm going to go through all of that, and then we'll pull all of this off, just so that I can make sure that everything works. But it came together really quickly. I'm really impressed with how easy this went together. It was a daunting task. I was freaked out. You saw those bundles of wires, but since most everything was done for us, it's fantastic. Chris was really happy with the install. So, I think I'm going to leave it at that this time. We'll come back, and over the next little while, we'll finish out all of the little cosmetic things, like putting in the floor and stuff like that. But we also have a lot of setup to do with this. We have to swing the compass. We have to drain the fuel tanks and then add fuel back a little bit at a time so that this can calibrate for the fuel tank levels. There's still quite a bit of calibration that needs to happen with the Dynon system that is very plane specific. So that's going to happen over the next few episodes. It's also minus 35 outside this morning. So in an upcoming episode, I'll be installing the engine heater because in the wintertime, you really need to preheat your engine before you go out flying. I want to thank all of you for watching. I want to thank Dynon for helping us out with this system. I want to thank Lyle from Six Pack Aero for doing an absolutely amazing job on this panel cut and the way it's finished. Absolutely great job, Lyle. If you're looking for a new panel for your aircraft, I highly recommend Six Pack Aero. Please keep leaving all of your comments down in the comments section. It means a lot to me. And I will see you in a couple of weeks back here.